What is up, everybody? I hope you guys are all enjoying your wonderful day. And I'm actually recording this the day before you guys are actually seeing this. I'm actually recording this the night of the 22nd. You guys are watching this most likely the morning or afternoon of the 23rd. The reasoning why I am pre-recording this video is because letter A is it doesn't really this video doesn't have anything that's going to change within one day, and also B, because I'm going to be pretty busy tomorrow. I'm going to be picking up family from Miami for Thanksgiving, and obviously have to go all the way to Atlanta and back. So I really won't have any time to really post a video, and this video is going to include like a lot of information. It's probably going to be pretty long, so I decided to pre-record it. But overall, in this video, as you can tell, I'm going to be doing a lot of comparing with past years, and I'm going to be comparing what this pattern we're currently seeing to this day represents and what could it withhold and what's probably foreshadow for the pattern of December. And it's going to be kind of, like I said, comparing a lot of years and similar years and as well La Nina years in the past and how those Novembers have reflected on their Decembers. But before we get into the video, I would recommend you guys subscribe to the channel if you are new. I hope you guys love my content. I'm doing a lot of unique things this year, a lot of new video ideas. So I hope you guys do subscribe to my channel and help me get to 7,000 as fast as possible. But without further ado, let's get in the video. So it's no secret that we do have a very strong and continuing to see a pretty strong La Nina ever since we basically crossed the negative zero point 0.5 status, and basically late September we have rapidly been dropping at a pretty rapid rate. We've gone as basically as low as negative 1.0, which is a pretty strong La Nina. Obviously the minimum number you see, the actual limit, the basically at the limit, the minimum number you need is a negative 0.5 for La Nina. That's the threshold. Basically anything below that is considered, if that continues for at least a 2-week trend, it's considered La Nina, and we got as far low as negative 1.0. So that's pretty strong of a La Nina. Like I believe we saw that like in 2011 and 2012, but it did rise a little bit. But overall, it doesn't really matter. We are still currently under a La Nina. Negative 0.820 is our latest value as of D18Z up to 22nd, and that obviously really won't change by the time you guys see this tomorrow. But really strong La Nina, staying pretty constant. So the reason why I'm showing this is because I'm be comparing the current 3.4 index value we have for this November and the overall NDJ time frame, which is November, December, January, towards past La Nina years, so you guys can get a better understanding what this current November pattern we're seeing, how it related to past similar years, and what those similar years led to their December. But currently we have a negative 0.8 status, so pretty moderately strong La Nina as of now. So now that we know the overall current 3.4 region status number and value we currently have, now let's actually go ahead and take a look now at what that 3.4 region value has actually led to for the United States. So here's the latest overall temperature anomaly based on averages of the United States from November 1st towards November 21st. So basically it's taken out of all the days we've basically had so far in November, based on the overall averages of highs and lows, it's basically giving us a value of how cold or warm it's been based on the average. So basically this November so far has been pretty cold for much of the southeast United States, as well for basically much of the overall eastern United States. And then we've had a pretty warm west central United States. I mean, it's kind of been pretty warm all across the month of November. We've been seeing some pretty intense friging, specifically across the southwest. We're seeing some pretty high values around 8 to probably even, in some cases, 10 degrees above average. You probably think it only 10 degrees above average is not pretty significant. But when you see the 10 degrees above average in my videos that I show, that's for one day. This is for the whole month. So that's a lot more big of a deal, because that means we've been seeing, out of all the first 21 days we've seen so far, complete days, all those days average out are 8 degrees above average. That means some days are 20 degrees above average, some days are only 5 degrees above average, but all average out, that's around 8 to 10 degrees above average. That's pretty darn warm, and it's a pretty large area all across the western United States, with some slightly cooler air across the Pacific Northwest. So what we're going to do with this November of 2021 so far, we're going to be comparing it towards years that have a similar 3.4 region for November, and comparing their their monthly temperature forecast in anomaly, and then looking at their December, so we can get an idea what are those similar years that we're looking at here. How do they either differ, or how do they compare towards this November? But like I said, pretty cold Eastern United States in general, seeing around maybe as low as 6 degrees to 7 degrees below average across a small area in Tennessee. But it's been pretty cool. Nothing too crazy with the southeast ridge. So we've been seeing some really good troughing across the southeast. Some slightly warmer air across the upper Great Lakes and overall New England area, but overall it's been a pretty more average to slightly below average temperature for the, or slightly below average to average November for the East, and then it's been a really awful November for the Central and Western United States so far. So here's a look now at the latest, basically modern history. We're going to be looking at the overall recorded La Nina years. Obviously, we're not going to be looking at the El Nino years since we're not in an El Nino year right now, but we are going to be looking at the La Nina years. So basically, since practically around 1950s, basically when we're getting this data, we've had around 23 La Ninas, we've had 11 weak La Ninas, we've had 5 moderate La Ninas, and we've had 7 strong La Ninas, with our most recent strong La Nina obviously being 2010 and 2011. That is obviously no doubt. However, that 2010 and 11 year is actually pretty strange, considering it was a strong La Nina, but the actual pattern itself reflected more of an El Nino. But we're gonna get, basically what we're gonna do with these years, obviously only in the La Nina side, is we're gonna be comparing some of these years, not all of them, because this video would be way too long. We're gonna be comparing some of the years. We're gonna be comparing their 3.4 number for the month of November getting to December, then looking at their November anomaly, and then looking at their December, so we can kind of get a better idea what could this year possibly reflect, and probably what could we, based on an educated guess, based on all this data, getting a better look at what could we possibly see for December. So we're gonna be looking at only a few years, the more recent years, like 2007, 2010, 2000. We can't really look at anything below 1981 or before 1981, because the data I have doesn't go that far. So we're gonna be looking at basically anything in the past 30 to 40 years, or 30 to 35-ish years. But yeah. So here's a quick graph at the overall how intense these La Nina years were. So here's the threshold. There's a 0 point. This is obviously the threshold. Anything within, basically anything within this right here, if I can get a good cert or a good line, anything within this is going to be neutral. So you guys can get an overall idea. So this is obviously going to be neutral, and anything above this is a El Nino, anything below this is a La Nina. So basically, based off this, you can see how, basically looking at the years, how far they are from the neutral threshold is basically how intense they are. So if we actually use a different color here, look at these, anything of really, I'd say below negative 1.0 is probably considered strong, but in this website, they say anything below negative 1.5 is considered strong. So based off that, we are currently within a weak La Nina, negative 0.8. We got down to a moderate La Nina, but the years that were pretty strong in parent La Ninas was obviously 98, 99, 99 to 2000, 2007, 2008, which is obviously really intense year, and then as well specifically 2010 to 2011. That one's probably the most famous strong La Nina. And then some moderate years was obviously 95, 96. As well, we did see a moderate La Nina for, as well, we did see 11 through 12. We did see, yeah, it's kind of really the majority. And then we did see those weaker La Ninas, including here, I believe this one here is going to be 2005 and 2006. Then we had another moderate one, which was 2000 to 2001. As well, actually, sorry, this is a weaker one. And then another pretty weak La Nina was 2001 and 2002, 2012 to 2013. So we're going to kind of be looking at those years, and obviously those years we kind of saw in the graph, and basically what we're going to do is, obviously, like I said, compare those graphs. So like I said, what we're going to do is going to be looking at the 3.4 region index number. So keep in mind that as of now, we are at a negative 0.8, and we are going to be looking at the November, December, and January time frames, and that's going to be basically the most representative of the current time frame we're in. We are obviously still November, and we're focusing on December. So we're not going to be looking at the OND, which is October, November, December. And we're not going to be looking at December, January, February, because that's going to be more towards the heart of winter, and we're kind of basically looking at the beginning of winter. So, again, some years we have to keep in mind is 2010, 2011, 2011, 2012. Sorry, 2011, 2012, yeah. 1998, 1999, 1988 to 1989. 2001 to 2000 to 2001, all that good stuff. So we're gonna be looking at this box. I know you're probably usually used to the winter being this far right side, but for some reason it's on the center. So this is going to be the time frame we're looking at within this box. You know, I'm gonna probably keep this so we not get lost. So what we want to do, we want to find numbers that are somewhat close to negative 0.8. Not exactly, but we want to find years that were pretty much similar for this time frame. Again, we want to specifically look at November, December, and not October, November, and December. Actually, I think it's probably a better time frame to probably look at the October, November, December. Now that I'm thinking about it, because that's actually going to reflect November a little bit more. So yeah, let's look at OND first. Because obviously it's kind of now that I think about it as I speak, we're going to be looking at really not necessarily January and the end of November. We're going to be looking at mainly all November into December. So yeah, I'm going to use the OND. So currently we're at a negative 0.8. Obviously we were at a negative 1.0 specifically into October. So I think this is going to be a pretty good year to work with, or time frame to work with. So as we look at 2017 and 2018, which actually was a weak La Nina. 2017 and 2018 was a weak La Nina. And look at the status it is for this time frame. It is actually a negative 0.8, which is basically the exact number we are at right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at the 2017 and 2018 time frame first, and looking at what they saw during the month of November and what they saw during the month of December. So here's going to be our first comparison. Oops, I accidentally smacked my keyboard on accident. So here's going to be the first comparison. So obviously, I already showed you guys. To the left is November 2021, and to the right is November 2017. Again, they were both around negative 0.8 at this time of the year. So you can kind of tell there's not really much to really compare. There's really not much similarities, except the fact that 2017, although it had the same value at this time of the year, it was pretty much different and kind of opposite. So you can kind of tell currently this year, or this month, we've kind of been seeing a pretty warm northern United States. And then for 2017 November, it was practically pretty cold. I mean, we saw around 7 to 8 degrees below average across upper Minnesota, around 1 to 3 degrees below average across the upper Northeast. And we saw some pretty, I mean, the only similarities we have is a pretty warm air across, basically from Texas to South Dakota, all across this area. I mean, that's kind of similar. You can kind of tell there is some similarities. It's been that's pretty warm, and actually there is some similarities that we saw. Some pretty strong southwest ridges going on there, a lot of ridging across the southwest. But other than that, we don't have too many similarities to really to really see. And so now that we saw the November 2017 pattern, let's see what the December pattern was of 2017 nearing the 2018. So if we actually now look at what we saw in 2017 for December, you can tell now we are seeing a lot more cooler air now. So in basically 2017 December, it was practically pretty cold. And obviously we all remember in 2017 in December, we did see Winter Storm Benji, which obviously was a really large snowstorm, almost basically I'd say a pretty historic snowstorm. So although we had a pretty warm Dixie Alley and Deep South Central, we're noticing that now the next month we saw a pretty large snowstorm. But in general, averaging out the whole month. The law that cooler air was specifically still centered across the northern United States, but now that cooler air did become a lot less apparent across the southeast, and that warmer air all across the central United States did minimize, and it basically became more average, but the southwest still remained pretty darn warm. But again, similarities between December and then you look at November. Oops, that's not going to match up. But you can kind of see the similarities between November 2017, December 2017 is that the temperatures were pretty cold across the Great Lakes and became warm across the Southwest. So another year that we can also point out, which is more that happened within the past decade, that is also pretty similar towards the current status we have right now for November, which is obviously, again, negative 0.8, is the year prior to the one we just looked at, which was 2017-2018. But look at 2016 to 2017, another weak La Nina year. So we had two back-to-back weak La Nina years. And that one was obviously a negative 0.7. So it was slightly closer towards neutral criteria, so it was a little bit weaker than what we saw with 2017-2018. So that was obviously in the OND time frame, a negative 0.7 in 2016 and 2017, which is obviously pretty similar towards the current status we're seeing right now. So let's go ahead and see what they saw in November and compare it, and as we'll see what they got in December. So here's a look at the comparison. So obviously there's 2021 right now in the left, and to the right we have November 2016 0.7. So pretty completely different, not only towards the 2017 November, but completely different. Although it's pretty similar 3.4 region values, it's still almost completely different. Again, the only thing they really have in comparison and similarity is the very warm west and central United States, but also they have a really, as well, rather warm eastern United States with an average around 3 to 5 degrees, even 6 degrees above average all across the month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's like 30 days of all averaging out to being decently above average. That's definitely showing it was a really warm November for 2016. The only cooler weather we did see was basically along the far east coast, along the Carolinas and Florida, and we do see that again within right now. But that's really the only thing we kind of have in similarities as well. We also do have some similarities that there is a slightly warmer New England in both years, and then again a really warm portion, of course, of the West Central. That's kind of the only similarity. So really different years. So that's kind of showing you, although you can have very similar La Ninas, whether it be moderate, or strong, that almost every single year is going to be different. If we now look at the December forecast, or what 2016 had for December, here's a December. So it kind of completely switched to really warm across the North Central and Northwest, to pretty cold across the Northwest, and it still remains pretty warm. Across the southern United States. If we look back to November, what they saw was still pretty warm. But other than that, the pattern did change quite a lot. Just like in 2017, how November had a really warm, sorry, a really what was it? A really warm portion of the Pacific Northwest, and then switched to a pretty cold December. And then we're seeing now with this, we're kind of seeing every single month it kind of does the complete opposite. That's what we're seeing here, going from pretty warm, let's see here, 10 to 11 degrees above average, to now seeing around 10 degrees below average. So seeing a complete different setup here. Really cold across the majority of the United States, from basically the north and central United States, but seeing kind of a common La Nina. Kind of seeing, this is actually kind of common in stereotype of La Nina of December 2016, where you see that really cold northwest, slightly cooler midwest, and the warm deep south and drier deep south. So this is obviously more of a general type La Nina, while in weak La Nina, and then while 2017 was kind of a little sloppy. So we're not really seeing too many similarities. Only really things I can point at between 2017 and 2018 December is that they did see a rather cooler Great Lakes, and they did see a slightly cooler, again, northwest, and then of course a little bit more of a warmer southeast here, as well as southwest that we go towards now. Back to 2017, you kind of see the similarities there. So we're seeing some small similarities. So let's now go ahead and look at another year, and I'm actually going to again draw the line here: October, November, and December, and we looked at basically two back-to-back years, and I would look at 2011, 2012, but I'm actually going to say that a little bit later for the video. And I want to look at the following year that's kind of close at negative 0.6, and that is a 2008 and 2009 season. So they are negative 0.6 during the October, November, December, which is basically 0.2 off. So let's go ahead and see what they have in common. So right off the bat, you can kind of tell there's, like, if I were to like switch it around 2008 and 2021, you probably not notice a difference, and you probably wouldn't say, oh, that's wrong. Because look how closely similar. It's almost like every single detail is like really, really similar. And it's actually kind of crazy how similar 2008 November was to this November, basically. I mean, it's really, really similar. Um, Obviously, we do have a very similar, cooler southeast and overall eastern United States that kind of drought. It's really, really similar towards the towards this November, and obviously we're not even done November yet, so who knows? Maybe by the time we have these two really, really large cold fronts, it's probably gonna expand this cooler weather or cooler average back to the north. So maybe it is gonna be very, very similar to this. I mean, like I said, we still have a good 8 days left in November with two large upcoming cold fronts. So maybe it really will get pretty similar towards 2008. But overall, really good similarities as well. Even like New England being slightly warmer is there as well. I mean, look at the Great Lakes as well, is pretty similar. C0 for like Wisconsin and C0 in the same areas. Seeing basically really great details. I mean, look at Texas, for example, seeing kind of it ending at the same spot too. Like it's really, really similar. The fact that it's not even like 2017 2018 where it's negative 0.8, or like the 2016 2017 where it's negative 0.7. It's actually negative 0.6. So further away towards the actual criteria, but we're still seeing like our closest similarity, where you see that really good ridging across the west, mainly this year, of course, with some slightly warmer air across the Midwest, slightly warmer air across the Midwest, and of course, rather cold eastern United States, So this is a very interesting comparison. So it's going to be very interesting what December 2008 brought, because obviously every single La Nina year is going to be different, but the fact that these are different in the same months and very, very similar is very intriguing. So here's what we saw with the December of 2008 year, and it got really cold across the Midwest. And one thing that we're seeing in common with all these Novembers, or all these Decembers we've seen in 2017, 2016, and now 2008, is that we're seeing a warmer southeast. So here is obviously this is obviously 2008, 2016, and 2018. So we're kind of seeing a similar with that warmer southeast here, but also we're seeing a good similarity of a cooler than average Midwest. So here's 2008, 2016, and obviously a little bit different 2017, but still mainly the Great Lakes are pretty cold as well. Portions of the Northwest are cooler. So again, here's 2017, 2016, and obviously 2008. So we're seeing some similarities here. The only one thing about it that's different in December of 2008 is that we're actually seeing a cooler southwest here. So look at that kind of the southwest Mojave Desert area. Obviously, it's a little similar to 2016, but not even close towards 2017. So definitely seeing some decent, some really, some similarities, and we're seeing a pattern here, slightly warmer, specifically around the southeast coast, and as well a warmer Great Lakes. So kind of a overall stereotype of the La Nina, but as well as seeing a cooler northeast, and as well as some spots of cooler south central, which we're seeing specifically in 2008 and as well in 2016. So very, very interesting. So another year I want to compare is going to be further back in toward the early 21st century. And I'm going to be looking at 2000 to 2001, which again was a weak La Nina. So we've been practically looking at all weak La Ninas. I want to get a moderate La Nina and then a strong La Nina. So this is probably going to be my last weak La Nina. Then I have one moderate and then one strong. But let's go ahead and get a look now at the overall look. So 2000, 2001 is a negative 0.7. So again, it's a weak La Nina, but that's our third negative 0.7. So let's go ahead and see. Obviously, it's pretty similar towards the negative 0.8 we have currently right now. So let's go ahead and see what they have for their November and December. So basically, right off the bat, it's complete opposite. So we already know we've been seeing a rather warm and as well some pretty frequent ridging across this November for the majority of the past 3 weeks. And the complete opposite basically occurred in 2000. And actually, no, 2000. This is actually going to be 2000, not 2001. So I did make a slight typo. I do apologize for that. You can tell that this is 2000 because it says right here November 1st to November 30, 2000. So I just made a slight typo. So we're looking at November 2000. It's negative 0.7, obviously. Not too different to the negative 0.8. But like I said, every La Nina is different. It doesn't matter how close you are, how different you are. And status-wise, you are not going to have the exact same. Obviously, the 2021 and 2008 was pretty similar, but obviously there was still some differences. But here's a look now at obviously 2000. Really, really cold air. I'm talking really cold air. We basically see 15 to 16 degrees below average across Wyoming. And for a 30-day time period, that is absolutely incredible. We saw some really intense troughing and frequent Arctic blasts. So obviously we can't really compare this 2000 similarity wise to really compare it towards the December really. But does that mean what the opposite could we see the opposite of what the 2000 December was, because obviously our November is a complete opposite, or would that mean that we are going to be seeing a similar 2000 cut? The pattern we've been seeing so far with these Novembers and Decembers for each year is that practically the Decembers have been almost different than, and when I mean almost, I mean some cases completely opposite, in some cases it's slightly different. So could this mean that our November, which is completely opposite to 2000, does this mean our December will be completely opposite towards our November? So does that mean our November is going to be, or does that mean our December of this year is going to be similar to November of 2000? Or sorry, December of 2000. And here's the overall look at the December 2000, and boy, it was a really, really cold year for December of 2000. We saw basically extreme Arctic blasts. So again, it's practically a different pattern than the November. So a lot of that cold air was basically centered across the western United States, and if we go towards December, a lot of that air, warmer air, was centered across the western United States, and a lot of that cold air is really emerging to the east here. Now we're seeing more of a positive PNA pattern here in 2000, and boy, did it really surge. I mean, 15 degrees to 16 degrees below average for a whole month time period is absolutely mental. So if anyone in the Midwest in my comments is from 2000, or not from 2000, but lived there in 2000, please let me know how cold it was, because obviously I was born 6 years later practically, or more like 5 years later. So again, does this mean that could we be seeing a similar result to 2000 based off us having a complete opposite November? So like I said, what we've been seeing is Novembers are becoming completely different than the Decembers. So could this mean our November is completely different than, does that mean our December will be completely different towards our November, meaning cold air for the West? Who knows? I mean, it's going to be obviously really, really tricky situation. But here's again 2000 December. Compare it towards the December of 2008. It's pretty similar in the fact that we're seeing really cold air across the Midwest, but we're no longer seeing that warm air across the Southeast that we've been seeing practically across almost all the years, like we saw with 2008, 2016, and 2017. So it's really, really different here as well. But we are also seeing the trend of a warmer Southwest, which we did see obviously in 2000 as well. in 2016 and 2017 as well. We can't forget about 2008 having some slightly warmer air. So really very interesting approach for 2000. So obviously, like I mentioned, I want to get now a look at a moderate La Nina year, which we've only had 5 of, and I want to kind of look at the most frequent one. And I don't want to look at last year because I feel like I don't know. I don't really feel like comparing this year to last year. So I want to compare it towards our second most recent moderate La Nina, which is 2011 and 2012. So we look at 2011, 2012 in the OND time frame. This is the OND time frame. So if we look at the 2011, 2012, we had a negative 1.1, which just meets the criteria of a moderate, which is obviously below negative 1.0. So we are practically seeing just making a moderate La Nina, but we then saw the year before a strong La Nina, which was in 2010 and 2011, and we're looking at that in our next slide here, or our next comparison. But right now we're gonna be looking at 2011, 2012. Obviously, this is a negative 0.3 difference towards what we're seeing currently in this November. So let's go ahead and see how big or even how similar they are for November. So obviously this is 10 years. This is basically exactly a decade. So we're comparing 2021 and 2011, and that's basically exactly 10 years. And obviously we all remember 2011 being a rather warm year, or not rather warm year, but a rather pretty decent La Nina. We kind of saw that reflect in the severe weather season. But here's a comparison towards the November. Obviously, decent difference in the status, and we're kind of seeing a complete opposite of what we saw in what we're seeing currently right now. So we kind of split the United States in half. Let's do that, for example, from that's not even a half. Let's basically split it in half. You can kind of tell we're seeing complete opposites. In 2021, we're obviously on the west side of the west side of this split of this black line is mainly warmer air, and then the majority of the eastern half, we obviously have some warmer air, but the majority of the eastern half is cooler. But if you look at 2011, you're seeing the complete opposite. The majority of the United States west of this black line is cooler, specifically across the Pacific Northwest. So you can kind of tell we're basically seeing more of a more of a negative PNA pattern and a positive WPO pattern, while we're seeing now a pretty much warmer eastern United States. So we're kind of basically flip-flopping the exact opposite. And this kind of could reflect because we're comparing a weak La Nina towards a moderate La Nina, so we could obviously expect some differences. If we now look at the overall winter or the December results for 2011, is we're seeing as well a pretty different result than the Decembers of the weaker La Ninas. Obviously, we've been comparing weak La Ninas for this whole video, but now if we look at the southwest and south central, it's a lot cooler across the southwest than in what we saw in the past weaker La Nina, specifically across this vicinities where we're seeing a lot of that cooler air. So we look at like the Four Corner states, really cold there, especially across the south central and southwest. If we look at any other of those weaker La Ninas we've been comparing, like 2000, we see mainly warmer air. If we now look at 2008, mainly warmer air with some slightly cooler air. Same scenario in 2016 as well, same scenario, but a lot more drastic change in 2017. But in this whole circle, it's almost all cold air. And then another big difference is the Midwest. We're seeing a really warm Midwest in 2011 across December, but look at 2000, really frigid, really cold in 2008, really cold in 2016, and as well pretty cold in 2017, but a little less significant. So 2011 is basically the complete opposite. So it looks like there is a pretty drastic change between a moderate and a weaker La Nina. So definitely, based off, we go on not common sense, but if we go off this, then if we look at our November pattern, it'd be complete opposite. Would that mean we're gonna be seeing the complete opposite than the December for 2? So would that mean we're gonna be seeing again a cool northeast and a warm southwest? Again, we can't really. That's pretty dumb. That's a dumb assumption to make, but it's as well an educational or an educated guess, if that makes sense. And then lastly, I want to compare a strong La Nina year, and then I'm going to end the video because I already know I'm a really, really long video so far. So I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. So obviously in the OND year, we're looking at 2010 to 2011, which is a clear, really strong La Nina. And look at the OND time frame for 2010 to 2011. So it's going to be more towards November and December. We are looking at a negative 1.7. And within the past, that's actually our strongest La Nina since the 1955 year. If you look at the OND time frame, that is the strongest OND value. Never mind, it's not. It's not the highest value, actually. The highest value is negative 1.8 in 1988, which is a really, really strong La Nina. I wish we had time to look at that one. Maybe I can do another series of this. If you guys ask me in the comments below if you guys want another series like that so I can compare the 1988. But that's the highest value in basically around 30-ish years over around, yeah, basically just, that's 21, that's around 33-ish years, I think, something like that. I don't have time to do that quick math, but really strong La Nina in general. So let's see how different they are to a weak La Nina right now. And of course, this one's also pretty different than the current status we're seeing right now in November. It's basically, once again, the complete opposite. So we're seeing a trend here, and actually this seems pretty similar towards the difference that we saw in the 2011 year. You see in 2011 year, it's practically the opposite here as well. Obviously, really cold across the west. We saw that again in 2010. And as well, pretty much warmer east. So it looks like the moderate and the stronger La Nina years are pretty kind of similar, related in November wise, and how they're completely opposite towards the weak La Nina. So does that mean again that we have to maybe only compare it towards weaker La Ninas? Because obviously weaker La Ninas like 2008 are pretty similar towards 2021. They're not drastically different, while 2010 and 2011 are complete opposite. I mean, not complete opposite. Once again, we draw the center United States here, You can kind of tell, again, the majority of the west part of this line is really warm, while it's once again really cold. And it's really similar towards 2011. Look at that similarity between 2011 and 2010 there. Really, really good similarities. And then, of course, that warmer air and above average temperatures across the eastern part of that line. Obviously, 2011 goes further towards the New England area, but still some really decent similarities between 2011 2010, and complete opposite towards 2021. If we look now at the 2010 winter, or not winter, but the 2010 December, it was fun for the Southeast. And let me just tell you, since I'm a Georgian, although I was only 4.5 years old this time, I still remember to this day because it was historic. We saw the historic white Christmas blizzard in the Southeast on Christmas, obviously, in 2010. We saw extreme amounts of snow across the Southeast Appalachian Mountains on Christmas. It was really our only recorded white Christmas across some of these areas. 2010 December was absolutely mental across the United States, the Southeast United States, and it shows in this map. We saw temperatures now 12 degrees below average all 30 days, basically averaging out 30 days across Florida. Really cold here across the Southeast, and it's obviously really completely different than all the other years, including 2011, completely different. So although the Decembers are really, really similar, although the Novembers are really similar, the Decembers are completely opposite. Really warm air in the Southwest. In 2010, we saw more of a negative NAO pattern, while it's the complete opposite here. So although they're very similar in November, they're completely different in December. So this just shows how almost everything La Nina is different. And of course, this is going to be something to watch out for. So will we see a complete opposite of this, where they swap back and forth because of us having a completely different November than them? Well, that's something we have to wait to see. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, if you guys like this video, I would really, really recommend you guys like it. Again, this is a really long video, 40-minute videos. I know it's really hard to watch something this long, but it's really how to present the song as well. If you guys want another series of this video, like a part 2, let me know in the comments below. But I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I will see you guys later.